Hi everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Just me today, and we are talking all things resilience, how to build it in our children and how to help them handle things like setbacks, injuries, failures, rejection, because at some point they are going to experience one or more of those things, and there's maybe just some things that we as parents can do to help them be better prepared for them, which will then help them later in life as well. We've worked now for over 10 years with many parents, many children. We've seen a lot of different things when it comes to resilience and building toughness, if that's what you want to call it. And reflecting on that and thinking about that, and also as a parent now myself as well, there's just some things that I feel would be good to share, because maybe it is a bit of a harder time to be a kid at the moment. There seems to be more pressure on them. There's things to suggest that there's issues around children, or more issues around children's mental health now, and there's a lot of concerns there. So I think it's something that we do need to be aware of, and resilience and that toughness is something that we probably need to help our children develop. And there's just some things that I've thought about and made a note about that I just wanted to share today. But it does matter. It definitely does matter, and hopefully this will be of use to people that have got a child going through something, or at least prepare you for when your child does suffer a setback. So what is it? What is resilience? It's in a nutshell the ability to recover quickly from difficulties and keep moving forward. In a football context, which is what we'll talk a lot about today. We are going to talk in a football context, but we are also going to look at it more generally as well. But in a football context, we see that the kids that are that little bit more resilient, they seem to enjoy it a little bit more. They carry on when the going gets tough, and they're more likely to stick with something longer term. Obviously football, but if you do have a resilient child, they'll probably stick at things, whether it be football or another sport or something in school. And it carries over. If they can build resilience, then it does carry over into school, into friendships, and obviously future challenges as well. I personally think sport is a massive help for that. I think it's a massive help for building this resilience in children, and especially now, as I say, when there is possibly a growing concern around children's mental health. I think one of the best things parents can do is get them involved in some sort of sport or activity to help them deal with these sorts of things that are coming. So sort of common things that you'll see from a football point of view is stuff like rejection, not being picked for a team, not making it into an academy after a trial, maybe being the sub all the time, or getting subbed more often than everybody else. You've got injury. So children that are having to spend a lot of time out injured and they're losing confidence as a result. Failures in games, obviously, lots of parents listening to this, you'll have seen your child make a mistake, they might have missed a penalty, a goalkeeper might have let a goal in that was an easy catch or what have you, been shouted at, all these sorts of things. And we've, as I said before, we've seen everything you can think of and had lots of conversations with parents. Thinking about rejection, there was a story I'd remembered around a friend of mine who I played with years ago. He contacted me. His boy had been released by an academy, by a professional academy, really good player, got told he wasn't good enough, and it floored him. It absolutely floored him to the point where he was thinking about quitting football completely. His dad sensed that there is a player there, and he should stick with it, but he was struggling. Long story short, we managed to get him to come to Foot Tech and to our sessions. We got an arm around him. It was obviously, head and shoulders the best player there, but it helped build up his confidence a little bit. He was playing with no pressure and enjoying his football again, to the point where I think it was 18 months later, he got picked up by another academy. And this was a good few years ago now, and he's absolutely thriving there. I think he's just going into under 16s now and doing really well. He's into his scholarship year, so he's hopefully going to get a scholarship. So that is an example of rejection. And then turning that around a little bit, injury was, I think the best example I've got there, it's probably an extreme example, is one of our coaches, Oscar, great lad. He joined us as a player when he was 7 years old, and really good. We had high hopes for him, and he was doing really well. And all of a sudden, he developed a leg injury. It was a disease in his leg or his hip, I think. Out of nowhere, just one of those things. It wasn't to do with an injury whilst playing or what have you. It was just something that happened. And long story short, he was told he couldn't play football anymore. and would likely not play football again. So he's gone from doing something that he absolutely loved many, many times a week to not being able to do it at all, not being able to play with his friends. And you can imagine he couldn't walk properly, had lots of time in hospital and things like that. So this is, again, an extreme example, but at 7, 8 years old to be told that, heartbreaking. Fast forward to now, he turned that around. He ended up getting involved in a sport that he could do once his leg sort of healed to a point. So he got involved in boxing. He's become a city champion, and he's coaching football with us now. He came back to be a coach. He's still involved in football and still managing to do something that he enjoys, and he's getting a living out of it now as well. So again, an extreme example, but that was one that sprang to mind from the injury. And then failures in games, as I said, there's probably lots of examples, and people listening to this will have a few themselves. I think back to a gala I went to a few years ago. There were a few of our players playing for different teams at this one gala, and I saw one boy, he missed the penalty. I think it was a semi-final. He missed the deciding penalty to get to the final. So you can imagine for a few days after that, he was heartbroken. And these things happen. As I say, this is why sport's quite a good thing, because you probably are going to get more setbacks and failures and stuff to deal with, and build that muscle in the background for the future. But I think it's important. The reason I wanted to share those things is that I think it's important to normalise setbacks. Every single person listening to this, every single person in football or other sports, they all go through setbacks and failures. Messi, Ronaldo, the best in the world, the best to ever played the game, that they've all gone through some sort of setback or failure at some point. It's just for us to sort of understand that and normalise it with our children as well. It's not the end of the world, because you're not the only one to have suffered something like this. I think when I was putting this together, I thought about some of the stuff we've listened to before from parents. We things that I do myself and things that we promote, and I've just made a list of some of the stuff that I feel might be worth talking about and sharing. Some of you may be doing these sorts of things in your role as a parent, but even so, I think it's just good to go back through some of these. So some of the sort of principles, you might call them. Staying calm would be one. So you know what it's like. Kids take cues from parents, and if they see you overreact to something, they're going to feel like it's the end of the world. So an example, your child makes a bad pass, pass gets intercepted, the other team go and score, your team lose 1-0. If that child turns to you and sees that your head's in your hands, and you're absolutely devastated, then that's probably going to amplify things more than if it was like, a smiling face or a thumbs up, or that empathetic face, I suppose, that just to show you're not upset and it's not the end of the world, and don't worry. I think if you stay calm. I think back to my daughters went to a gymnastics competition last year, and if one of them messed up one of their routines, if they'd have seen me with hands up in the air and all that sort of stuff, then that's going to impact them more than me just giving them that thumbs up and keep going. So definitely staying calm. Reframing the story. I think this is an interesting one and a good one to look at. So it's trying to understand, or getting kids to understand that mistakes are feedback. It's not failure. And they're probably in their life going to lose more than they'll win. And what's interesting is you'll often probably learn more from the losses than you will from the wins, because when you lose, you see it on the TV, the loss is dissected a lot more than the win. We ask a lot more, why did we lose, as opposed to why did we win? So if a child loses a game or makes a mistake, in inverted commas, a loss, then they can learn a lot more from that than perhaps the win. And it's getting them to understand that. It's getting them to understand, what can you learn from this? What would you try differently next time? Going back to the passing example, you made that pass, it got intercepted. What would you do? What would you do differently next time? And just start talking about it. It normalizes it again. You start talking about the loss, the failure, and they start to understand, actually, I can do this, I can try that, and whatever else. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but they just start talking about it, and it becomes this thing that they don't need to be shy about. They don't need to hide away from that loss. They're going to own it, and they're going to understand it and try something different next time. Next one, we talk about this a lot, is encouraging effort over the outcome. So if a child doesn't score a goal for a few games, doesn't make an assist or what have you, all the things that we celebrate, that's fine. We want to focus on the praise. So we want to praise the effort. We want to praise the attitude. We want to praise the bravery, rather than the score lines all the time. That's good. That's great. If they score a goal, if they assist, and the team wins, definitely praise it. Fantastic. But praising that effort means that's something that's in their control. They might not be able to control the scoreline. They might not be able to control the fact that the other team's just way better than them, but they can control how hard they try. And if you start to praise that, that's going to build something within them, more so than just praising the goal, just praising the assist, just praising the win. So it's things like, I loved how you kept trying even when your team were losing, celebrating those small wins. Really, really important and really, really easy to do as well. We've got a few book recommendations as well at the end, which I'll discuss, and that sort of talk about that. The next one is not fighting their battles for them, and there's a term that's been used over the last few years, helicopter parenting, and that's where child is perhaps about to go through some discomfort. Parent is there to solve all the problems and talk for them and just make sure everything's all right. I think there's a huge difference between a child being unhappy and a child being uncomfortable. Unhappy is something different. Uncomfortable is where that resilience is built. And discomfort, they've made a mistake, they've give away that goal, that's uncomfortable, they're going to feel uncomfortable. And that is what we want to expose them to a little bit more gradually, because that's the thing that's going to help build the resilience muscles. A kid being unhappy, that's a different conversation. That's that is something else entirely. But the only way that we're going to allow children to build resilience is to allow them to experience discomfort, and then it's experiencing that discomfort in line with perhaps their age and where they're at as a human, as opposed to just throwing them to the lions. But that's something that we'll talk about shortly. So yeah, try not to fight all the battles for them, because otherwise they're not going to have any chance to build this resilience muscle at all. Model resilience yourself. So one thing that I've been trying to do is share my setbacks and failures, of which there are many, with my children. My kids now are at the point where they are understanding competition a lot more. They're understanding winning and losing a lot more. They don't like it. They don't like losing, and it's the end of the world and all that. So I'm trying to. This is why I've probably done the podcast now at this stage, because I'm trying to do a lot of this with my kids, and I've been telling them short stories about me when I did something where I failed or had a setback. I think back to when I scored an own goal in a final and we lost. I managed to lob my keeper from about 25 yards, believe it or not, and all my all my mates were there. They didn't let me forget that for weeks on end. I'm probably in my early 20s and I'm still absolutely devastated. So I'm sharing these stories and again normalising it, because as parents to young kids, you're the hero. You're this amazing thing, and if they understand, oh, actually, this person has also experienced setbacks. This person that I think is amazing and perfect, they've experienced setbacks before and failures. Then it's all right for me too. But then it's explaining how you bounce back from it as well. Yeah, that was a bad one. That I can't. Some goal, put it in the wrong net. Next one is I don't know how to term this one, but it's basically knowing when to stop, when to have the space for them just to forget about what's happened. So, as an example, you may be a parent that in the car on the way home, we're dissecting the match, where we're talking about what went well, what didn't, and everything else. But then it's once they get home, just giving them time to recharge and forget it, as opposed to just going back in and grilling them again and bringing it back up again. They made that mistake, that pass, going back and talking to them about it again, having just probably spoke about it for 20 to 40 minutes or whatever in the car, just giving them that space just to forget it, finished, draw a line under it. If you are going to start talking about it again, it's just maybe speaking on the positives. What was fun today? What did you enjoy? But maybe just leaving it, once they get in that door, is just forgetting it, parking it to one side, just letting them be letting them be alone, or letting them be a kid for a little bit, and not thinking about the mistake that they've made or the failure that they've just had. The last one is the injury thing. This is a tough one because there's so little you can do to make it better, and we all want to. Going back to that helicopter thing, we all want to fight our the kids' battles for them, don't we? We don't want them to be unhappy and all that sort of. As I say, the unhappy thing is slightly different, but we don't, injury in particular, we don't want them to. We want to do what we can to get them right and get them fixed and get them playing again. But I think it's acknowledging the frustration, because they are going to be really, really frustrated. But then, what can they do? What can we control now? So maybe if you've got a player in their late teens, then maybe it's looking at, okay, well, can we do some weight, some upper body stuff? That's, whatever, just something to get them focused on something else other than the fact that they're injured and they can't do anything. If it was me, maybe it'd be talking more about, well, could they watch more football, look at a player they're playing in their position, and start watching more football around that and what they're doing on and off the ball. These sorts of things, it's not easy, but it's just trying to distract them from the fact that they have this injury, but there are things that they can control. They might have some rehab to do, so let's nail the rehab. But what else can we do? Can we watch a little bit more football and learn that way? Is there ways that we can make other parts of our body stronger or more flexible, or just anything that might help them, as opposed to just sitting there and twiddling the thumbs thinking about their injury. It's maybe just setting small goals to do. Today we'll do this, and tomorrow I'll help you do that, and working with them, so that letting them see you as somebody that's part of this and a partner in it, but giving them small wins. So general things that I feel a sort of an important thing, an interesting thing to think about, is seeing resilience, or if you want to call it toughness, what have you, seeing it as a muscle. And just like muscles, this will grow based on stress and recovery. So facing these small setbacks, having time to think about them and acknowledge them and normalise them and get over them, bounce back, that is one rep. And it's, okay, well, can we expose them to more of these little reps and gradually overload this resilience muscle? And I like thinking about things like this. I think it's quite a simple thing it's quite a simple terminology, what have you. And that's, I think, if we can understand that a little bit more, then it just becomes easy to think, okay, yeah, they're having that bit of discomfort there, but I don't need to jump in. This is just something that's going to help them longer term. So it's not about removing the obstacle. It's allowing them to maybe seeing these obstacles as reps to build this muscle. Don't over shelter them from struggles following on from that. It's 100% natural to want to protect our children, and I'm as guilty as anybody with this, but constantly cushioning them from that disappointment, it's just going to leave them unprepared. It's heartbreaking if they get sad over something and you just want to solve it for them, but it's taking a breath and just seeing it as an opportunity to develop this resilience muscle. Of course, there's going to be extreme examples where you do need to step in. I'm thinking there about, maybe things like bullying and so forth, if it's something over a continuous period of weeks and months, of course. But we're talking about the smaller setbacks, the smaller challenges and so forth, and just letting them experience these age-appropriate challenges. Be there to support, but don't solve it. Is probably the best way of framing it. Is just, support them through it, asking them questions, knowing that you are there, but they're going to deal with it. They're the ones that are going to find the answers to this problem, and they're going to be better for it. So another good one is allowing natural consequences. So examples of this would be stuff like in school, maybe they forgot their homework, and instead of you sort of rushing back to sort it all out for them, it's like, well, no, actually, you're going to have to own this now. And this might be when they're a little bit older. You've done this. I've got to go to work. I'm not going to be going home and being late to work because you forgot your school or your PE kit or what have you. You're going to have to own it. Maybe you give them pocket money. They've spent all their pocket money, but they still want X, Y, and Z. Well, no, you're going to have to wait until next week or next month. Maybe they've been, I don't know, saving for a big thing they want, maybe a PlayStation or what have you, and they're 50 quid short. It's, well, what are you going to do to earn that 50 quid? I'm not just going to give you it. Little things like that, where allowing them to experience that and probably problem solve as a result of it, and take accountability as well. And that's mine are young, mine are 5 and 7, and it's the accountability thing is something I'm trying to do a lot more with them. Even things like, not that this is a setback, it's stuff like, the demands for snacks. It's like, well, I haven't brought a snack today, so you're going to have to deal with that. And that is the end of the world, as many a primary school parent will know. If you haven't brought a snack after school, then yeah, there's all hell to pay at some point. But yeah, just allowing that to happen and letting them deal with it. Following on from that, encouraging problem solving, so not providing the answers all the time. It's not giving them the quick fixes, it's asking them, what could you try, what could you do here? Builds that independence, builds that confidence. One thing that I'd read a while back was also teaching emotional regulation, and it's kids understanding what they're feeling. And you see this sometimes in at our primary school. They've got pictures of different emotions, and they're labelled, and it's so kids start to understand, especially this is younger kids, they start to understand, I'm frustrated, I'm sad, I'm angry. They name that, and then that reduces its intensity, and then it's understanding, well, how do we deal with that, and understanding it's a temporary thing. How do we go from sad to happy, frustrated to smiling, whatever it might be. So yeah, definitely that is, teaching one of them what emotion it is, and then how we recognise that and move on. I like this one. I forget where I'd read this one, but it was about exposing them to small struggles, and then an example that the person used was things like climbing a tree. Let them, if they're going to climb a tree and they're younger, then make it a smaller tree, and if they fall, they're going to fall on soft surface, grass, what have you, as opposed to a massive tree and falling on concrete. And I think when you look at it like that, it's a really, really good thing to think about from an age-appropriate point of view. So it could be that, that bravery of climbing that little bit higher. It could be that you challenge them to speak up in class and put their hand up in class when they really, really don't like doing that. It could be things like, think from a foot tech point of view, it could be things like sending them to a camp on their own without a friend. They don't know anybody at the camp, and they're going to have to talk to other kids and make new friends. That certainly for me, when my eldest went to our camp, she was on her own, didn't know anybody. I think she was 4, and dropping her off, even me that's tries to promote all this sort of stuff, dropping her off that first day, it was like, oh. But it was great because it's a little overload. It's a rep towards this resilience building, and I think that's a really easy one to do, and a good one to do, providing you get them in the right environment. But then another one, and anybody that's followed us for a period of time knows my bugbear with the cold, but getting them out in all weather is such an easy way to develop some of this discomfort and understanding how to deal with it. Most kids love it anyway. Most kids aren't bothered. It's normally the parents that are more bothered about being out in the cold or wet. But it's interesting, especially now, you get so many that don't want the kids out in the cold or through the winter. And it wasn't so long ago that we were all moaning about that we were kept indoors for best part of a year and a half or what have you. I think it's such an easy thing to do, is getting kids outside, even when it's raining and all that stuff, because it's not a hard thing to get over. They soon get over it. Kids are red hot. They'll be taking the coats off and all sorts after a short period of time once they start running around. But it is a bit of discomfort. But it's a gradual overload. It's not a, you're not throwing them to the lions like I said before. It's just such an easy thing to do. Gradual overload, getting them out in the cold, getting them out through winter, no matter what. But then that comes down to you again modelling it, and it's interesting watching parents sometimes, that the ones that are like, shivering and moaning about it being whatever. Guess what the kid's gonna do? So instead, something that I'd read before was a guy, when it's raining, his thing is it's it's not, it's raining. It's raining. Yeah, brilliant. Let's get out, and making a game of it, making it fun. So little things like that definitely are worth looking at. Avoiding things like your language, so stuff like I'll fix it for you, I'll sort this out for you, and changing that to things like I believe you can handle this, I believe you can sort this out, go and sort this out yourself. I think that's something important. It gives them ownership again. Again, thinking about this age appropriate stuff, this might be a different, maybe slightly older, but I believe you can handle this. It puts the onus back on them, should give them a bit more confidence that someone like you is trusting them to do this, take ownership of it. So yeah, definitely the language that we use is important. Focusing on progress over perfection. So yeah, kids in a football team and we want them to be a professional footballer. It's like, okay, fine, but progress over perfection. So yeah, they're not there yet, but can we get better than yesterday? Or in a different phase, it might be a beginner player that's late to football that wants to get to a level where they can join in with their friends in a team and join a team. It's okay, that's not gonna happen in 24 hours, but have you improved a bit more than yesterday? Have you improved more than last week? And celebrating that smaller win again. So it's rather than being the best, it's just be better than yesterday, just improve from yesterday and last week and last month. And because yeah, it's not about perfectionism, certainly not yet. And again, practicing recovery, not avoidance. So we're not avoiding failure. We're not trying to avoid failure. It's the failure isn't the end. It's the chance for a rep. It's a chance for a rep in this resilience thing. It's what can you do differently next time? It's what one small thing would you change next time, and just repeat. So yeah, as I said, I hope that's been of use. It was just I'd made a lot of notes last week when I was planning this, and I hope I've put that into simple terms for everybody, because it's an interesting topic, and it's one that I think is only going to get more and more important. You think about what children are exposed to now compared to when we were kids. They basically, some of the kids that have got phones and stuff basically have the world's news in their hand now, whereas when we were kids we probably didn't know what was going on outside of Leeds. So it is perhaps a scarier time, and we need to prepare our kids and help our kids control what we can control. So yeah, it's just understanding that resilience, it's bouncing back, it's not avoiding the problems, and parents can help with some of the stuff that I'd mentioned before, staying calm, focusing on that effort and the learning outcomes from it, not trying to fight the battles for them, and all the other stuff that we preach. It's not making it too pressurized, and making things age appropriate. I think that's a really interesting one, and yeah, there's some simple tools and tactics there that I think anybody can use. The books that I'd look at would be, there's a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. That's a real interesting one. That's talking about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. I think some schools teach this now as well, which is really good. So growth mindset is it's looking at like exactly this. I've failed, but I've got a growth mindset. I'm now going to try and push through that and push past this setback. Fixed mindset is like, I failed. I can't do this. I'm not going to try anymore. And they talk a lot about praising the effort over the outcome in that book as well. Bounce by Matthew Syed is a really good one. That is talking about the myth of talent, and about how not everybody is. His argument is that not people aren't always born with something. It's practice and things like that, and dealing with all these sorts of things, these setbacks and stuff, and coming through them. And that's a really good one as well, because it gets kids to understand that they aren't these people that are doing better than them or whatever. It's not because they're a special. It's maybe because they've just practiced more or worked a bit harder or can handle these setbacks. But then the author of that book actually made a kid-specific book, a child-specific book for it, specifically for children, called You Are Awesome. And he's put it into a story for them, for children to understand these principles. So that's definitely worth having a look at for your child. But as we always say, happy to chat, happy to try and share some ideas and stuff with parents, particularly if you're a foot tech parent listening to this and your child's going through a hard time, maybe away from us, maybe they're going through a hard time with their team, crisis of confidence, whatever. We've experienced a lot of different things, and there's ways that we can help. So please do contact us if we can. Thank you as always for listening, and we'll be back again in a few weeks.